Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. If you're following this insane story, then you've probably noticed a large amount of comments on the last Wilfred Wong video. Many comments supporting Mr. Wong and many comments from those who do not support him. Some people seem upset that I'd reported on this case at all, even though I have been for several months now. And others just wanted to put across the point that abuse is committed by people who do identify themselves as Satanists. That much I certainly don't doubt. People's experiences are definitely not diminished in any way by the arrest and subsequent guilty verdict in the trial of Wilfred Wong. That is not my intention when I'm reporting on these things. But either way, I've decided to inflame the tensions in the comment section more by continuing to talk about the matter, because it is wild, as the kids say. We've got some information on a child-kidnap kit that Mr. Wong had in his possession when arrested. He claims he just found it somewhere. And we've also got some further information about the case that's been released now, and that is because some of the reporting restrictions have been lifted, and the media appears to be quite free to report, for example, the anti-satanic abuse motivations of the gang, and they also reported that many members of the gang argued that they were indeed on a rescue mission. So it's not like this information is being suppressed or covered up. The story is being picked up by not only the national press, including the Times, the Daily Mail, the Daily Record, the Sun, the Mirror. It's also been picked up by international outlets as well. There are still some things which are not allowed to report on. That includes anything that could identify the victims in the case, even by what they call the jigsaw effect. So you're not allowed to identify people that could result in the identification of the victim. So just don't do it. It's not allowed. It's not specific to this case. It's in every single case where there are child victims, and people with YouTube channels should know better. But let's get into some of the details of this case. The first thing that is apparent is that Mr. Wong certainly was acting as a recruiter in this. The media called him a leader, and it is undeniable that he was a recruiter. Not only that, but he actually attempted to recruit the husband of a childhood abuse victim who he was counselling. If we take a look at this article from North Wales Live, which has been really good in covering this story, it says a man turned down a crazy invitation by kidnap plotter Wilfred Wong to abduct a North Wales child and take the child to France. Wong, who had been counselling the Brighton man's wife, invited the couple to take part in the secret scheme, the Crown Court heard, but the Brighton man said it would be illegal and refused. The man told the jury that weeks after his refusal to take part, he watched a news bulletin showing that Wong, 56, and his accomplices had gone ahead with the botched kidnap bid. So that's quite interesting there on its own, attempting to recruit quite possibly vulnerable people into doing these things, into taking these quite important roles in this scheme, and choosing people to recruit from a pool of your own counselling clients. That to me is very suspect. And these people also mention how they met Wong and YouTube played a big part in it. The article goes on. The jury heard that the Brighton couple had researched abuse on the internet and found YouTube videos made by therapist Wilfred Wong. The Brighton man said the topic he spoke about was satanic ritual abuse, and then the prosecutor asked him, "You and your wife watched them and they gave your wife some help?" And the man said, "Yes, some understanding." So they went to Wilfred Wong because the man's wife had been abused as a child. Obviously it had a satanic element to it, so they went to Wilfred Wong to get some counselling. It says the court heard the couple met Wong several times, and they met again at their home on October the 16th to discuss a secret proposal by Wong. The man said that Wong said he'd been working with a woman in Wales for some time, and very soon a child in foster care was going to be given back to their father, who is a Satanist, and he, Mr. Wong, wants to rescue the child. Now it is noteworthy that this is mentioned in the media. People claim that this is being covered up, but this has been mentioned in several media outlets. Not only that, but We are told that no charges have ever been brought against the father. The belief is that the child drew pictures which made the mother feel that the child was being abused by Satanists, and that is what spurred on this rescue attempt. But back to what Mr. Wong expected of this guy. The Brighton man said Wong wanted him to hire a van in Brighton, preferably a Luton van, which has a large area above the cab, and drive to Surrey. There the van would be loaded up with furniture and some void or space in the vehicle would be formed to accommodate a woman and a child. After that they would leave Surrey and drive to a bridge in Wales, and then the woman and the child would come in a car and be put in a van. And then this guy said, I'd have to drive to a port on the south coast, possibly Newhaven, and we would then get a ferry from Newhaven and drive to another location. So these guys got in touch with Wilfred Wong due to his YouTube videos because the man's wife had been abused as a child, but then Mr. Wong tries to recruit them into a kidnap attempt. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think it's brave or noble for a counsellor to recruit their clients and their families into secret child rescue attempts when they know that the clients are vulnerable and that they've been abused and that they may feel compelled to assist their counsellor, especially in something as emotive as the rescue of a child. It sounds downright inappropriate, abusive, and unprofessional to me, and it sounds to me that these clients of Mr. Wong certainly may have a civil case there, because that is a line which has been crossed, which should not have been crossed, to put it extremely mildly. Now, the man and his wife luckily slept on his offer to take part, and they were absolutely right to say no to it. The husband stood up for his wife and said, we are not doing this, that is the end of the discussion. He said it's illegal and he's not doing it, despite the fact that Mr. Wong apparently tried to persuade him into it even after he said no. But that decision by the guy has likely saved himself and his wife both from serious prison time. This just goes to show, and it's quite scary, but it goes to show how vulnerable people, even adults, can be manipulated into doing things for people they look up to if those people are prepared to manipulate them. But at the end of the day, a court isn't going to give much consideration to a defence by an adult that they did it because they looked up to the person who asked them to do it. Manipulated or not, they are adults with agency, and they almost certainly would have gone to prison for a long time if they'd got involved in this. We were also unlucky enough to get some information about Wilfred Wong's child-kidnap kit, which actually sounds like a Roald Dahl book that never made it to publication. To the people who think Mr. Wong is innocent of any wrongdoing, I've just got a couple of things to ask. Firstly, if you could explain why Mr. Wong had a W.H. Smith bag with a serrated knife, a balaclava, and cable ties in it. A balaclava, a knife, and cable ties. Surely you're not going to argue that that is a rescue kit. Let's be honest now, if you were getting rescued by somebody with a knife while they were wearing a balaclava, who then bound your hands with cable ties, I'm not sure you'd be feeling like you were getting rescued. Now, if this child was being rescued, in my opinion, surely it would have gone willingly, and there would have been no need to bind its hands and possibly feet with cable ties. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, but it certainly appears that it was part of the plan to at least have something that they could use as a restraint if necessary. Unless you're going to tell me that these cable ties had absolutely nothing to do with the kidnap attempt and were simply in the bag with the knife and the balaclava by pure coincidence. Which, incidentally, is kind of what Wilfred Wong tried to claim. He said that he just found the bag while walking around the area and decided to pick it up and carry it around with him until the police found him with it in the car, which contained the kidnapped child. He actually expected the jury to believe that he just found that bag. He also said he slept under a tree, which explained the passage of time apparently, and then that he found the bag, and then he got a lift from the actual kidnappers, which explained his presence in the car when the police boxed it in on the motorway. I mean, that doesn't sound very convincing to me. This is a good example of Atwood's razor, and I'm surprised that Mr. Wong never said it was just a prank to make him look like a kidnapper and sharpen people's critical thinking skills, and also maybe that the jury was made up of trolls. Very sinister, the contents of the bag. The media describes it as chilling, which is a good media word, a bit like knifeman. We have also got some information about the planning. Apparently the horse box had actually been obtained. This is the horse box with the child-sized compartment in it. Apparently that had been obtained by the gang, and the police actually had some intel to suggest that it was going to be used, because upon arresting two members of the gang who were acting as lookouts, detectives turned up and said they suspected a horse box was to be used in the commission of this crime, and they wanted to be taken to the horse box, but it was found to be empty. As I say, this is a horse box which has been modified to contain a secret child-sized compartment in it. This is what came out at the trial, but they decided not to go with the horse box plan. The other thing which is concerning and came out in court is that this may have been foreshadowed on the Sean Atwood podcast. Mr. Wong was speaking to Mr. Atwood and said the only way to save a child is to take them out of the country and hide them until they're adults. As I say, this came out in court and it has been reported, and somebody was actually kind enough to direct me towards the footage of this, which is publicly available, even though Mr. Atwood has deleted it from his channel. Here is Mr. Wong on that podcast talking about an eerily similar scenario as to what actually happened.
It's become so bad that at the moment, the only way a mother who wants to protect her child from an abusive spouse or abusive partner is to take the child and flee the country and just hide in a very, very thorough way, never to be found, at least not until the child has grown up to adulthood.
Now, maybe chilling is the right word for that, because it really is. And it really makes me wonder how many missing children have been taken in similar ways and taken out of the country in secret compartments in horse boxes or vans, and tied up with cable ties and taken to Europe until they're adults by gangs which are made up of possibly well-meaning and extremely naive people who have been almost tricked into taking part. And of course there could be some people in the gang who are not so well-meaning as well. They're all getting sentenced in September, and I really look forward to hearing the judge's sentencing remarks. I hope that becomes public, because I want to know what the judge thinks of these people's motives after looking through all the evidence, because if the judge believes that their intentions were good, they're still going to get into a lot of trouble, but that will be mentioned during sentencing. But if the judge hasn't bought it, then the sentencing remarks, just like the actual sentences themselves, I suspect, are going to be a massive shock to the system, to the defendants, especially if any of them were influenced into taking part by Wilfred Wong, like he tried to do to the husband of one of his clients. I really do think there is a possibility that there are going to be some extremely long sentences here, and Mr. Wong, being 56, might be wasting a hell of a lot of his life in prison as a result of this move that he's made. But I'm just going to end with one more question to those people who believe that Wilfred Wong and the others were right to take part in this, and that it was definitely a valid rescue mission. In relation to Wong specifically, why has he consistently denied involvement from the very start, if he's a noble rescuer? You would expect that if someone believed they were rescuing a child, they would say so from the start, loudly. Certainly, certain podcasters were claiming that it was a rescue mission hours after the arrest was reported, and yet it's notable that Wilfred Wong, the leader and the recruiter of the gang, has maintained to the court that he wasn't involved, unlike the other parties to the case who have said that it was a rescue mission, that they fully believe they were rescuing a child. Why has Wilfred Wong, the leader, the recruiter, why is he saying that it's just a big mix-up and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time? It doesn't sound very brave, does it? It kind of sounds like he's trying to save his own skin while the others go down for this crime. That's what it sounds like to me. It doesn't mean that we can't be friends. I do welcome your thoughts on the matter. But I am going to leave that one there, folks. So, as usual, don't forget to like the video if you feel it was worth your time. Please do hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And please do consider sharing this video on your social media accounts so that other people can watch, maybe learn a little bit about this case, and they can give their thoughts down below too. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.